Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. The rule of law is very important, so people of repute should take care of it. This, however, was not the case with the European Union, where Didier Reynders, suspected of money laundering for years, spoke out about the state of democracy in Poland, scolding, lecturing and reprimanding the previous government. He blocked EU money for Poland. He fought for the rule of law. What did his fight for the rule of law look like in practice?
Didier Reynders became the European Commissioner for Justice in 2019. As an EU official, he became famous for his dislike of the Law and Justice government. Under the guise of concern for Polish democracy, the politician ruthlessly attacked our country and blocked attempts to reform the justice system. Commissioner Didier Reynders, pressure on Poland will grow. A recent statement by the EU Justice Commissioner leaves no illusions. The European Commission will press the Court of Justice of the European Union to impose financial penalties on Poland. Didier Reynders also stresses that Poland's national reconstruction plan cannot be accepted by the European Union, foreign media report. The Belgian politician has been doing his best for years to block the European Union funds owed to Poland. This was the case, for example, in 2021, when he tried to stop a constitutional court ruling on the superiority of Polish law over European law. I can confirm that on Wednesday, Justice Commissioner Didier Reynders sent a letter to the European Affairs Minister Konrad Szymański and to the Justice Minister regarding the Polish Prime Minister's request to the Constitutional Court on the 29th of March. The Commission is concerned about the request because it calls into question fundamental principles of EU law, especially the primacy of EU law. Vigan said at a press conference in Brussels. Interestingly, when the German Constitutional Court made a similar decision in 2020, Commissioner Reynders was noticeably silent. This was a complete negation of the principles that underlie the European Union, namely the equality of member states. He was also a staunch opponent of the fight against Russian influence. The establishment of a state commission to investigate them in Poland, headed by Professor Sławomir Cęckiewicz, was presented to the public as a threat to democracy. This is the decision that the Commission has taken with great concern, because this law creates a special investigative commission that will look into whether Poland's internal security was violated between 2007 and 2002. Symbolically, when the Polish state detained the important Russian spy Pavel Rubtsov, Commissioner Reynders sounded the alarm and talked about the lack of the rule of law. There is such a concept in Russian doctrine as the useful idiot, that is, the use of people who, under the pretext of mostly noble ideas, serve Russia by harming their own state. Didier Reynders has been presented as a paragon of all virtue over the past few years. Now, when our journalists ask politicians of the ruling coalition about him, they don't know the case. I do not deal with Mr. Reynders. He was not your friend, the authority of the rule of law? No, fortunately not. Or maybe he was one after all. As it happens, we are meeting the Commissioner for the second time this week. Donald Tusk's entourage treated the European Commissioner like a demigod. A photo with him was almost a duty. Politicians, independent judges, and even activists such as Ludmiła Kozłowska, who was expelled from Poland by the security services, or her husband, Bartosz Kramek, who destroyed the barbed wire on the Polish-Belarusian border, took photos with him. However, Didier Reynders was closest to Adam Bodnar's heart. Excellent discussion with Adam Bodnar on the state of play regarding the Polish action plan on restoring the rule of law. I was pleased to hear that there is a continued strong determination of the government to restore the rule of law and safeguard judicial independence. While this work is still continuing and some reforms take time, I am convinced that remaining obstacles can be overcome in the future. I particularly assisted Tusk's team, which notoriously breaks the law and which even boasts about it in restoring the rule of law. The decision that Poland is no longer under special monitoring was a good decision. Europe's elites have a lot on their conscience. 2 years ago, public opinion was shaken by the so-called Qatargate. It turned out that influential Eurocrats, headed by European Parliament Vice President Eva Kaili, were taking money from Qatar in exchange for pushing favourable solutions. In turn, in 2021, French journalists described influence peddling allegedly perpetrated by the Court of Justice of the European Union judges and the European People's Party politicians. One has to admit that Donald Tusk's government is introducing the rule of law to Poland in true European style.
South Korea is facing its biggest political crisis in years. The country's president first unexpectedly declared martial law, only to reverse his decision after 6 hours of chaos, fighting and military intervention. Although martial law lasted only 6 hours, its consequences are very serious. Why?
Martial law, chaos, fighting in the streets, military intervention, storming the parliament, political accusations of treason. All this in one night, which will definitely go down in South Korean history. What happened last night came as a shock to residents. We thought a war had just started. Creating such a threat can have no place in a democratic society. It started with a shocking speech by South Korea's president.
이 비상계엄을 통해
I declare the imposition of martial law to defend the freedom of South Korea against the threat of the communist forces of North Korea and the shameless politicians who sympathize with them in order to deprive our countrymen of their freedom and happiness. Following these words, the military and desperate people moved on the country's capital, Seoul. There was fighting in front of the parliament headquarters. As a South Korean citizen, I cannot passively watch my country's president play the dictator. This dangerous game lasted 6 hours. During that time, the military managed to invade the parliamentary headquarters and cordon it off. Opposition parliamentarians, jumping over the fence, got into the building and won a night vote that thwarted the president's crazy plan. Martial law was revoked. The president's fate may soon be sealed. Impeachment is nothing nice and no one is laughing. But a man who embarks on such madness is committing a violation of the Constitution. Impeachment is no longer a choice, but a necessity. What drove the president to such a desperate decision? He was losing popularity and influence. The South Korean opposition managed to push through budget changes, cutting police and military spending, among other things, and the president's people began to turn on him, hence the nervous and fatal reaction. This is an action in which he is at a loss. It is likely that impeachment will be carried out in a while. There are high chances that he will indeed not survive it, and if this scenario plays out, then we will have an election where everything points to a leftist candidate winning. And this is very bad news, not only for South Korea. Because the likely leftist successor wants to break the alliance with the United States and the West in favor of close cooperation with China. That's why the crisis in South Korea is being watched with concern by the U.S. administration and NATO.
We are really following the events in the Republic of Korea and South Korea step by step, and we are very much interested in how this will evolve further. I don't want to comment now because the Koreans are themselves at this moment.
It's also important for Poland because it's possible that South Korea will be the one to supply us with nuclear power. We are also bound by serious arms contracts. Poland has ordered huge amounts of South Korean equipment. Of the most important things, I would mention K2 Black Panther tanks, K9 Thunder howitzers, Chunmoo artillery rocket launchers, and also F-A-50 light combat aircraft. The head of the National Security Bureau spoke with South Korea's Ministry of Arms Industry and the equipment suppliers today. He reassures that there are no concerns about Polish orders. Deliveries are going without delay, and we expect good news from the industry. The defense minister tries to take the blame for the imposition of martial law, but it is too late to come to the rescue. The people demand the resignation of the president. The opposition demands harsh punishment for him, and even his own party is no longer going to defend him. Everyone in the world is already talking about this. I feel lousy about it. What has happened is an embarrassment to the whole nation. It was the shortest martial law in world history, but its consequences South Korea may feel for years to come.
It's already the 7th night of anti-government protests in Tbilisi. Thousands of demonstrators are taking to the streets of the centre of the Georgian capital to express their strong opposition and outrage over the ruling party's decision to suspend negotiations on accession to the European Union.
For nearly a week, police have been using water cannons and tear gas to disperse protesters. Demonstrators are firing fireworks at officers. Barricades are also being built on the central boulevard of the Georgian capital. It is extremely important for me to be here because we are fighting for our democracy, for human rights, for human dignity. So we will remain strong, and Georgia will never be Russian. We are very resilient and we will remain strong. According to the Health Ministry, 162 injured people were taken to hospitals from Friday to Wednesday. However, NGOs say the total number of injured is much higher. 293 people have been detained since the beginning of the current wave of mass protests, which began in Georgia last week. Actually, we have no other choice. I'm always in favor of negotiations, but how can we negotiate when 100,000 people have been protesting for several days and no one is listening? There's no response from their side. The opposition and pro-Western president accused the ruling party of rigging October's parliamentary elections with the help of Russia. Mass opposition protests took on a new dynamic after the ruling party's decision on Thursday to suspend accession talks with the European Union.
Extremely important for me to stand here because we are fighting for our democracy, to protect human rights, human dignity, our democracy.
The Georgian Legion, which is fighting the Russian army in Ukraine, has denied rumours that it would return to Georgia to take part in anti-government protests because, its commander says, the pro-Russian government would turn them over to the Russians.
As militaries, we are hoping that Georgian government will not shed the blood. They will not start shooting their own citizens, and they will do the right thing and just quit the politics. 300,000 men in the street, and it's not only Tbilisi now active with.
Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze of Georgian Dream was initially defiant and threatened the protesters with harsh consequences, but changed his tone yesterday, saying there was a misunderstanding. I want to remind the European bureaucrats and politicians who artificially obstruct the European integration of our country to bring the negotiations and prepare the documents, and we will quickly sign them, immediately, on the same day. The government is aware of the public mood. That is why they are not definitively breaking off talks with Brussels, but want to preserve good economic relations with Russia. In the face of the Kremlin's criminal policies and the war in Ukraine, this is like trying to reconcile fire with water. And on the Georgian horizon, another internal conflict. On the 14th of December, there will be presidential elections, which are already stirring up a lot of emotion and controversy.
Syrian rebels have launched an assault on another major city on the road to Damascus. According to analyst predictions, Assad's troops do not have enough forces to repel the assault. After several days of observing the situation on the front line, one factor is clearly visible that has influenced such rapid rebel advances. Who has done their homework on the war in Ukraine?
By the time you see or hear it, it's usually too late.
Отлично, есть.
The FPV drone that was until recently an essential piece of equipment for filmmakers and travelers has in the last 3 years become a deadly weapon used indiscriminately on the Ukrainian front. We have to improvise with what we have. If we don't have artillery support because they don't have missiles, then we have to find other ways to destroy the enemy. And drones are perfect for that. It is not the choice of soldiers or the fantasy of the arms industry, but precisely the need to replace munitions and people that has made lightweight, one might say personal drones, a common means of combat, especially since many components are being obtained from what is being shot at the Ukrainians by the Russians. We have a great deal of weapons made from Russian drones and missiles. I won't talk about numbers, but a lot of what came to us, we send back to them. Videos of drone action on the Ukrainian front have been seen by everyone. Fighters in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria also have watched them. In the absence of other means, heavy howitzers or aviation, they followed the path of the Ukrainians, completely changing the rules of the game on the battlefield. The battlefield is completely different because for an ordinary soldier, the battlefield today is hell for the reason that a person is visible 24/7 and one is not able to judge whether something will not fall on their head, no matter where or how one hides, where one lays down or how one camouflages themselves. This is why the jihadist offensive in Syria looks the way it does. This is why Assad's army is going into disarray. Drones are hitting communication points, military bases, and columns thousands of equipment. It seems today that the rebels have achieved air superiority over Syria without having a single aircraft.
The insurgency is led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a group designated by the United States and the United Nations as a terrorist organization. Armed groups backed by Turkey are also involved in this surprise attack. Now, unlike other insurgencies in war-torn Syria, it appears that the fighters face little to no resistance from the Syrian military, as they made their way through towns and villages and picked up munitions and vehicles left along the way.
According to battlefield analysts, it seems that we may be talking about another groundbreaking step in the history of armaments. Certainly, we can almost be sure that the development of this defense industry will continue. Certainly, the direction of minimizing personnel losses is the direction that we have been seeing for years. So surely the use of drones, whether flying, floating, or moving on the ground, is the direction in which all types of armed forces in many countries around the world are going. Technological progress, however, must be kept up with. The experience in Syria clearly shows that the Assad army was in no way prepared for drone warfare. This also shows that given Russia and its experience from the war in Ukraine, NATO must be ready for much greater challenges.
That's the news. Thank you for watching, and from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.